everybody to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. We are coming to you live on YouTube. And Chris, I do like the fact, I just want to get this out of the gate. I've been chastising Chris for a few seconds now about the fact that he titled the show The Worst Game Ever Coached. I don't think that's true. I think it's almost categorically false.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah?
Why don't you respond to my texts? I sent you a text yesterday.
Because I have a job. Because I was traveling.
Worst game ever coached. Heard nothing back, so that's what I went with, because you don't.
No, I don't respond to you when what you tweet me is when you text me is nonsense and it's not even formed as a question. You just say it as if I'm supposed to read your mind to know that that's what you're saying. But it's okay, guys. It's okay, right? Essentially, guys, we're here. We're here. You're here. And we're talking about the Buffalo Bills.
Can we start with a little bit of positivity?
Oh, no. There's no positivity here.
Is there anything better than being on a first-name basis with a pizzeria? Because I went to pick up Fourth Wall, Drew and I get a pizza. I supply liquor and beer. It's the way it's always worked since 2016. So Drew places the order for a pizza, and I go pick it up. There's 4 or 5 people in the inside of Wise Guys waiting. I walk in. The woman walks out with a pizza and was like, Drew? She thinks my name's Drew. Drew, we saw you. She goes, we saw you on camera in the back. And so I'm walk in. I'm in there 30 seconds. When there's 5 people waiting. They were probably all pissed. It was amazing to be on a first-name basis at a pizzeria. I highly suggest you get on a first-name basis with your local pizzeria.
So, Chris, I see your watch. I see you've got the turnover, or you've got chains on, right? Not the turnover chain, but you've got chains.
Yeah, I got my Babbage chains on.
How do you feel about them now, this many weeks into the season?
I mean, I wish we had some more wins so I could add to them. Maybe a Monday against the Jets. You know, we'll see. But
Chris,
I like them.
How did you enjoy the football game this weekend?
Well, I am obviously. I mean, it's early to go hero of the game, but the hero of the game is me, because this is my first Sunday working with the Bills game on, so I only saw from 1:30 to 2 and 3:30 to 4. I didn't catch the end of the game, but I did get a prescription to NFL Plus, and I rewatched the condensed game later that night, 3 old fashions deep. So I'm the real hero for having to go back and watch that game, what I missed while I was at work.
So I was in Florida at a certain Florida man's house. Justin Uhlberg, cheers, happy retirement from the military. He retired from the Air Force, and we went down to wish him well, kind of a surprise thing. And so I got to watch it at his house with his mom and dad. And it's funny, Chris, because I want to say I was on my best behavior. Do you know how I managed that?
That's not possible.
Mm-hmm. Because every time I left the room or would go outside to get another beer, or I would go to the bathroom, something positive would happen for the Buffalo Bills. So after a while, I just extricated myself from the house altogether. And it was in that way that I managed to go that entire game without hurting anyone's feelings or offending a single person. I just took it outside. I just took it outside. And that's almost how you have to handle this. And so then obviously I'm flying back yesterday and I'm jet lagged and I'm tired. I mean, jet lag I think normally applies when you travel over time zones.
What did you fly? Frontier?
Delta.
Ooh. I didn't think you had that kind of money for Delta.
I'm a man of stature, Chris.
You look like a Frontier passenger.
Spirit Airlines?
Yeah. The Greyhound of the skies.
So as I'm flying back and I'm stuck in airports and I'm running through my connection was in Atlanta and I landed. I thought I was going to have an hour because they were like, oh, your flight's leaving at 10:30. It's a 45-minute flight. Your next one doesn't leave until 11:45. You'll be fine.
Let me ask you this. when you got to the Atlanta airport, did you go get your shoes shined?
I actually didn't have a chance to do anything because the time difference when you change over from Central to Eastern, because somehow the panhandle of Florida is in a different time zone than anything else it's the rest of the state of Florida has a different time except for the panhandle. And so what happens is I land in the Atlanta airport and find out I've got exactly 27 minutes until my flight starts boarding. Oh, by the way, no one brought up the jet bridge. Sorry, we can't get you off the plane yet. By the time I left the plane, I had exactly 13 minutes to get from Concourse C to Concourse A.
So how was the train? You went down the elevator to the train?
Get a text message. The train is running slow today. We appreciate your understanding. Chris? I ran the ATL airport like the family in Home Alone. That's what I did with my Monday. So I'm hungover, I'm angry at the Buffalo Bills, and I'm sprinting through the Atlanta airport. I could almost be one of the biggest losers of the week. In fact, if you're the winner, I'm the loser, because that's how I spent my day, being hungover, mad at the Buffalo Bills, and sprinting through an airport at 11 o'clock in the morning, trying not to miss my flight to Buffalo. But I will say the party would have been worth it. Chris, he made a classic Southern shrimp boil with Conica sausage. Man. It immediately trumps almost anything I've ever cooked at a tailgate.
Yeah, if you've never had a shrimp broil, or whatever it's called,
a boil?
You put it in the giant bucket, right? And you stir it with like a stick from the woods. I mean, that's what I've done at my couple times I went to visit my brother in Auburn.
Wait, you're stirring pots with sticks? That's hilarious. That's the most hillbilly thing I've ever heard from you.
Well, it is the South.
This is true. When in Rome, right? So, guys, obviously, this game did not go well. And I'm not going to drum up a bunch of statistics for you. Instead, I've got a lot of philosophical things I want to talk about tonight, because I wasn't going to go pour over any of this and bring you stats of the week because I didn't want to revisit any of it. I'm shocked that Chris had the stomach for it.
I mean, we can go, look at that. I used both my hands to do the number of completions Josh Allen had. 9.
It's pretty bad. Right? Like when you can look at a game like this and say the box score, like it's one of those things where you look at the box score of this game like a horror movie through your fingers, like, oh my God, was it really that gory? Oh God. And like when it's the kind of thing that if I was an adult, I wouldn't let Jack see it because it might bother it. Like it might warp who he is as a person. It was bad. Josh Allen, 9 for 30. 131 yards, 1 touchdown, and a sack. 9.
And maybe a concussion.
9
Allegedly.
for 30. Meanwhile, the Bills gave up another 300-yard game on the season. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Josh Allen's 56.4 QBR is one of the worst that he's posted in a while. But it's not completely his fault. We have a problem here. The team has a problem with the offense and the structure of it all, and we have to get into, because that's why it makes pouring over all the poor offensive statistics. You can't do it in good faith like that, right? Because you're being disingenuous if you point to, well, this statistic and look how bad Josh Allen did. If you don't take a look philosophically at what went wrong and what failed and what took place around him that provided the place for him to not reach double-digit receptions in a game. Chris, I don't know. Can you do me a favor? Go to Pro Football Reference and look up his game log, just career game log, and see if he's ever done that before. I mean, I'm genuinely interested, because I feel like even at his worst, like even in the Minnesota game where he's running people over, or even in the Baltimore game where we got just absolutely railroaded and he got put in at halftime, I feel like he had more than 9 completions.
That might be one of his lowest ever, if not the lowest.
And so that doesn't just happen, right? There's things. Okay, so his very first game where he got brought in at halftime, he had 6 completions. Now let's walk it down.
8 against Jacksonville in 2018.
And a win. And, well, he got hurt there. Or no, he didn't. I think he got pulled in that game.
Yeah, nothing. Only 7 of 15 again. That was that run game where what was it? I feel like I'm part of a group project and I did nothing.
Yeah.
That Dallas game.
So up to this point in his career, the only time Josh Allen had fewer than 10 completions is when he was brought in at halftime or when the rest of the team did so much that, like, Chris, look at this. How many losses in there? 6-15. Obviously there was the Baltimore game.
Yeah.
It was a starter.
2 and 3 in games that he throws.
The
completes.
Week 17 game where he played the first possession.
Yeah, 2 and 3 in games where he completes 9 or fewer passes.
And one of those you can't even really hold against him. So he's 50%. But again, that doesn't just come from nowhere. In games that they actually intended to play, this was his first loss in a single-digit completion count game. And part of it's because the offensive line, and I think Brady's offense, has been figured out by opposing teams. There's a real problem. The offense has been a major talking point for the Bills. And ultimately, I think that there's a pair of people who deserve to have the finger pointed at them, and it's those guys right there. A lot of the conversation over the weekend revolved around the idea that the Bills' best playmakers and skill players are their running backs. I know, because I was 4 beers in yelling that at the top of my lungs in the middle of Justin Yulberg's living room. And so it was insane watching a half go by where the Buffalo Bills don't get those guys. Don't ham fist them into the attack. You do not make them the focal point of everything you're trying to do, knowing that your running backs are probably your most dynamic playmakers on offense. It doesn't matter how you incorporate them. Ty Johnson has caught passes downfield for you. James Cook can catch. And people make fun of his drops, but James Cook can catch. Ray Davis can do some things and he needs some experience. You didn't get them involved. So at one point you want to scream at Joe Brady. You want to grab him by the face, grab him by the ears and just yell into his face about the running backs. But then what you do is with sober eyes, you take a step back and you use the context of, hey, why aren't we using the running backs? Do you think that, Chris, that guy doesn't know that his best players are in the backfield?
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around the 2 fourth quarter turnovers from Houston, where you're still a 1-score game and you're not milking the clock with your run game, because that up until the whole game, that was the only thing that was working was the run game, because our receivers could not create any kind of separations.
I like this Vita Vega guy. Doesn't want to go over the stats and losses because there isn't any pettiness in it. Yeah, kind of. But I'll tell you where I will talk about some statistics. You want them? All offseason, we spent time. I like it when people show up here and try to hold me accountable. It's nice. It's refreshing. Here you are, you can scream about this. And then you go, a guy whose job depends on the offense moving forward probably would do well to recognize what you and I do, sitting around with a drink in our hands, that the running backs need to be fed in this offense. So why wouldn't you do it? I mean, especially after an offseason that was dominated with talk about the reason that you pivoted to a bigger wide receiver group was so that you could run a power spread offense. So that you could use the same personnel that you do in 11 personnel to basically run 12 and run the ball with authority and orchestrate a passing attack using your running backs just as often. You could go spread, you could go 5 wide and do empty set formation stuff out of 12 personnel, quote unquote. The problem is the offensive line is allowing far too many negative plays to occur, and the finer metrics behind it are absolutely mind-blowing. Chris, that's my single. Why don't you give it to me? On yards per carry on first and second down rushes. Now, I saw a tweet and I've lost it, but the person basically broke it, and that's what put me on this. If you compare Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey, would you consider Ken Dorsey a good NFL offensive coordinator? Chris?
Absolutely not.
Okay, you, the listener, would you consider Ken Dorsey a quality NFL offensive coordinator? Okay.
Can I tell you, I was struggling Sunday night through our Twitter feed because of that offensive performance. And then also Ken Dorsey was trending on Twitter. So I was confused as to if it was about I'm like, they're still tweeting about Ken Dorsey with the Bills.
Their yards per carry on first and second down runs under Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey, they averaged 4.6 yards per carry. Under Joe Brady, from week 11 of last year to now, 4.1. They're actually less efficient on early down runs than they used to be. EPA per rush, Brian Daboll and Ken Dorsey, if EPA is a stat you like, negative 0.05. And we used to laugh and go, look at these losers. Ken Dorsey stinks. Joe Brady is currently negative 0.07 EPA per rush on first and second downs. In 2024, the NFL average yards per carry is 4.5. And right now, the Buffalo Bills are averaging 4.3. Our rushing attack has become incredibly boom or bust. And when you go over the game logs, that's why I love Pro Football Reference as a resource, because what it allows you to do is export play by play by play, a textual explanation for what happened on every single play, the down and distance, the yardage gained, EPA, the whole nine, into one thing that you can download into an Excel spreadsheet and then filter and manipulate data, and you can do a lot of things with it. I like this because what you find out is that this team is the most wildly hot and cold run blocking offensive line maybe in the entire NFL. For every game that you watch of 7-8 yards where somebody gets up to the second level, whether it's Edwards or whether it's Torrance, and really blocks on a linebacker, the center does his job and diverts the defensive tackle, and you watch James Cook flow like water right through a crease and just get us 8 yards on a carry. For every time that happens, there is a corresponding drop backwards where it takes James Cook a Herculean effort just to not get tackled for a loss. We produce just as many negative yardage plays as we do positive over the course of the last 2 or 3 games. And that's not a good sign for the direction of an offense that can't be run through the wide receiver room. I believe that they legitimately made this roster with the assumption that they could massage a few pieces on the offensive line, find a quality depth signing of a guy they liked last year, and they truly believed, hey, we can get away with just relying on the rushing attack to downplay the fact that we don't need upgrades on the offensive line that are expensive, and we also don't need upgrades at wide receiver because we're trying to cut cap. The problem is they're doing an incredibly poor job of executing a lot of these plays. And it's wild to me. I can't wrap my head around it. It makes me militant. And it's like, again, when you watch our offense, Chris, it happened on a couple drives this week against Houston, where James Cook rips off a 6 or 7 yard carry to start the drive. On first down, you get an amazing play, and then they try to run it again on second down, and they lose 2. Or they only get 1. And you go, okay, well, now it's 3rd and 3. And then you go to throw the ball, and there's immediate pressure on Josh Allen, and it's a throwaway, and you punt because it's 4th and 3. 4th and 4. These things happened way too often in that game. Way too often. It's insanity to me that we're here talking about this, but when you look at the drive chart, like if you were to go and you look at Pro Football Reference for the drive chart, Chris, we punted on 7 yards. These were the guys, I'm going to read off to you the net yards per possession in the first half. We gained 7 yards in our first one, and then we punted. We kicked a field goal after gaining 29 yards, after getting really good field position off the ensuing, they scored a touchdown, and then we kicked the field goal. So we ran, and I want it noted, we ran 10 plays to get 29 yards, which for those of you at home who are math majors, it's 2.9 yards per play. I don't know that that's NFL caliber. But we got a field goal, and we're on the scoreboard. We then proceeded to put up -1 yards, 8 yards, 35 yards, and 0 yards en route to 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive punt drives to end the first half. And that's where I decided I shut down emotionally, and I'm just finished. I have nothing more to offer that won't result in my friends' parents never being able to look at me the same way again. And so I did what any upstanding citizen would do. I took it outside. Now, here's the problem. It's not just our running backs who are hurt by the offensive line.
Did you go like this with your shirt and put beers in it?
The beers are already outside
and go outside.
Awesome, because if you live in Florida, apparently it's a prerequisite that you have to have amazing coolers. So there was an amazing cooler full of beer outside, and I just went out there and got into it. I got busy. And in that way, I missed all of the Bills' touchdowns from this game. I missed almost the entire second half because we made a pact. I will stay outside. Here's the thing. The offensive line inevitably gives way to some really ugly stuff for just some really ugly stuff. Like, look at this. Josh Allen's pressure rate by week. Week 1, it was only 20% against Arizona because nobody would think that you could get away with blitzing Josh Allen. Miami tried to come after him, and it jumped up to 30%, and it didn't work. Against Jacksonville, it went back down to about 23.5, which is around league average, like if you have a decent offensive line. Against Baltimore, that number skyrocketed to 44%. And this week, it took it a step further. 45.7% of all the dropbacks that Josh Allen took this week. You want to know why he's 9 for 30? 45.7% of his dropbacks, he's facing pressure. Now, he's an elusive quarterback, and we've gotten to know him as being a player who can make success when he evades pressure and finds a guy open who is able to create separation downfield. Except nobody's creating separation. It's just pressure and then throwaways and sacks and negative plays. Center is a huge issue for the Buffalo Bills right now. And we are in the place that I talked about in the preseason, Chris. The problem is I don't think Cedric Van Pren-Granger I don't think he's ready. Would you feel comfortable if I told you that the Bills were going to start him this week against the Jets?
No.
No, nobody would. So you're not going to make a change, but then the problem is you don't have a pivot. And when you look at some of the charts and some of the data that's out there, it's horrific. We have the worst in true pass sets, according to Pro Football Focus, the worst center pass protection in the entire NFL. What are you supposed to do with that? The book used to be that the way you stop Tom Brady, pressure in the A-gap. Okay, pressure in the A-gap. Well, what happens when it's pressure in the A-gap every play and it's over, and every time you're trying to pass the ball, there is no pocket anymore. And oh, by the way, there's nobody creating separation downfield for you to throw to. You end up with 9 completions on 30 attempts. I mean, Chris, what do you think about the offense? Like, when I throw these numbers at you, do you absorb them, and what goes through your head when you hear them?
I mean, Sunday night, I spent time in our Twitter feed with yards per pass. Great follow if you guys aren't following yards per pass. But he had a bunch of the all 22 up, and you could see no separation from anybody on multiple plays, multiple drives. I wish Buffalo would have started and just stuck to the run more, because there were, like you said, there were a lot of drive starters who were like, all right, James Cook, 6 yards. Let's do that again on second down. But it's nope, throw the ball, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 6, 4th and 3. Because it looked like any passes that were being completed were around the line of scrimmage.
Okay. This is just one drive. Just one. I just scrolled down and I cherry picked it. But look, I scroll down. First thing I see, we had gotten a first down on this drive. 3rd and 3, James Cook off left tackle for 7 yards. Woo! Yeah, baby. Here we go. Then James Cook up the middle for -1 yards. Then Josh Allen sacked. 5-yard loss. Penalty on Keon Coleman for a false start. Josh Allen, incomplete pass, deep right side of the field for Keon Coleman. They kick a field goal. Like that right there is a synopsis of the Buffalo Bills offense right now. Everybody is swarming the line of scrimmage, and it's making it hard for them to survive. They don't understand. Tank Ninja in the comments. I don't know why. First of all, Jonah Mathis in the comments. Good to see you, brother. I'm happy to have you. Tank Ninja, I don't know why they don't take a shot when they get in 2nd and short. You can argue that it's probably not going to help. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I've got a theory on this. But realistically, when you have negative plays, like every time you have a positive run of 7 or 8 yards, you then compound it with 2 to 3 negative plays, it diminishes the impact of your rushing attack. And in that way, teams have found a way to completely neutralize the ability of our running backs to change the game in a positive direction for the Buffalo Bills. Then you put the pressure on Allen alone when he tries to drop back to pass, and if it comes right up the A-gap and there's nobody getting open, the whole thing falls apart. Now, why is this happening so often? Eric did a really excellent deep dive. It's on his YouTube. Go look at it. Why so many of these plays are failing. We had really excellent production against mediocre defenses and teams that were constantly rolling out a too-high safety concept. It's one of the most popular defenses in the NFL right now, especially when you're going up against a quarterback like Josh Allen.
Is that the one that Mel Kiper said should be banned?
Yeah, Mel Kiper's out there trying to ban the too-high safety look. It's like, look, it's the only thing we do well, guys. The problem is, hey, somebody in the comments just jumped in here to troll me and say, go Ravens. Well, Kyle, I'll tell you what, not only am I not mad at you, I'm about to talk about your football team. So one of the things that happens when you play a team, one of the things that happens when you play a team like Baltimore is not known for being a team that commits too high safeties very often. And so in that way, when they naturally go to a cover 1 or a cover 3 look, it puts your entire front 7 in a bind. Because now what you're going to have happen is you're going to experience too many people in the box for your natural rub routes to develop. Again, it's a philosophical game of rock, paper, scissors, and you're coming up the loser again, and it's giving your offense absolute fits, right? Some of it's scheme and some of it's just not having the talent to overcome that philosophical game of rock, paper, scissors. But it's a blatant disrespect by our opponents. Blatant disrespect when it comes to our skill players. And I think you should leave. And rightfully so. Why would they respect us? You look at some of the concepts. There was a couple plays in this game that stand out. One of them, they try to run just what should be a natural pick play. It's a mesh concept. They're going to run across each other. The defenders trailing are hopefully going to get caught up in the other receiver, and it's going to create a little natural separation where your player can't do it. What ends up happening is that just whether it's talent, whether it's understanding the scheme, or just their own inability to separate, not understanding where they're supposed to be, what happens is you watch, what's his face? Dawson Knox. He's supposed to come across the formation and create space for the receiver. Instead, he goes too high, and the receiver never bites. The receiver sits on the inside of his route, and since Knox can't separate, shadows the entire thing and never causes a disruption for this other cornerback. And in that way, neither player who's supposed to make the mesh actually ever comes open because there's too many players to just hand this guy off to the next person in the zone, and then that guy returns to his original position. Defenses that are not taking this approach, the Texans did it this week. And again, the Texans are a team that have been running a lot of cover 3 and cover 1. But also, they don't run it nearly the way the Ravens do. But they did it a season high against the Buffalo Bills. And the reason for that is because it's a known deficiency of our offense now. And I think the tape on how Brady wants this to work is out. I don't know how else to frame this other than it's kind of a failing of the utilization of the players involved. And at the same time, also the concepts that they're trying to roll out. Chris, multifaceted failure is the only way to describe this.
Yes.
So then the question is, what are you supposed to do? How do you combat this? It's clear that good defenses and well-coordinated ones are going to exploit this as the season goes on if you can't do anything differently. So what do you change? I mean, you could try to shuffle the depth chart. Maybe that helps. Curtis Samuel was brought in here to be something for the Buffalo Bills, right? They paid him like a wide receiver 3. I don't expect him to come in here and put up wide receiver 1 or 2 statistics, but it's interesting that he's not even useful. Chris, 0 yards on 1 target for an entire day in a game where you were missing Khalil Shakir.
Wasn't he only like being targeted behind the line of scrimmage?
Yes. So if what you're telling me is you actually, like, this is the Deontay Hardy argument all over again. You have a problem where you inherit these players and you watch the tape and the analytics tell you that you should be able to use them for things. And then you watch how the Buffalo Bills execute it and you go, wait a minute, all you did was bring him in here to be a McKenzie on steroids? In fact, he's a less useful version of McKenzie, which is a problem. It's a giant problem. And now relying on Mac for deep shots, Marvis Valdez-Scantling for deep shots down the field. I mean, the Keon Coleman touchdown, I did manage to see that one, and that's just a singularly athletic play from Keon Coleman. I don't know that the play itself would have generated that touchdown naturally. Good for him for making it. But it's concerning that they don't feel like they can trust Coleman with deep shots yet, so they're just putting them in the hands of guys who have no body of work that supports them being the focal. I don't know what they're going to do to fix this, but it is one of the key losses. It's the key reason we lost is just that offensive ineptitude, because there you are at the end of a game still with the ability to win it or at least potentially go to overtime when you know your quarterback has 9 completions on 30 attempts. If he completes 15 of those, we probably win this football game. So 6 completions is likely the distance, that's the distance between you being a winning football team and a losing football team this weekend. I don't know how to reconcile that. I don't say about it. I don't know how to feel about it. And I don't want to make it any better. Let me sleep at night knowing that so many of these things are not fixable. Just not. And that, Chris, isn't that demoralizing a little bit?
It is.
Like, these things are not fixable here in 2024. The deficiencies. Now the only thing we have to hope is that the coordinating on the other side of the ball is worse than ours. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what to say about it. Chris, where are we? Why am I seeing all these error messages?
It's the internet. We're having internet issues.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I thought you had the fastest internet known to man.
Yeah, we do. We have Verizon.
Okay. So what do we have here for activity? Show it to me.
I have nothing.
Viewer activity. What do we got?
Oh, and no super.
6? Give
No.
it to me.
We got nothing.
All right. We have nothing. Everything's falling apart. We're dying on the vine here.
Yeah.
How did you manage this?
I don't know. We've never had issue yet going live. So first, we're just buffering.
Maybe one of your dogs ate the internet line again.
Oh, well, no, that's happened before, but no, we would not have internet if that happened.
So you come into a game like this, and here's where I want to have a conversation, something a little more philosophical in nature. You're going to have to take a ride with me, and I'm going to have to grab a fresh beer for this one. You see, guys, we live in a time where, like Bruce Nolan, of the Bruce Exclusive Podcast. I like him. I like him. We talk. Chris, he's your purported best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact you guys, you like the Ron Swanson, we're best friends. We almost never talk sometimes.
Yeah.
What I don't like about the way that this went, oh, good. Now our connection is back. So what I don't like about what he's created is this thing that I like to refer to as pineapple culture. Bruce has made it very popular. He's popularized the concept that you pineapple someone who just clouds up your social media feeds and your timelines with things that don't bring you enjoyment.
Just a way of saying mute and or block somebody.
Sure. And I can get some of it, right? Because realistically, what we're doing here isn't brain surgery. We're not curing cancer. What we're doing now and what we do with our Twitter account is a form of escapism based around another form of escapism that's ultimately born out of just a search for catharsis. To make a corollary, I don't watch local news or national news because what I find is that there's one in, and two, most of reporting is stories that I can't do anything about, and that it provides me no benefit to know about them. And so in that way, I don't feel like I'm obligated to participate. And so what Bruce has been, see, Tank Ninja, oh, I thought the stuttering was me. No, we lost most of our viewers during the time when this entire thing just like chopped to pieces. I appreciate those of you who stuck around. You're the real ones. So this is all well and good. Wanting to know what to put into your own view of society is completely up to you. And so in that way, Bruce, you should be able to pineapple, as he calls it, and mute people who bring you things that you don't appreciate. When Bruce Nolan goes out, I pineapple this guy, or pineapple this conversation, or this word, and I understand what he's trying to do. He's trying to help people better their experience in terms of how they follow their team, how they become a fan, how they enjoy their team, and their time around this escapism, all just chasing here. Some of the problem in this, though, as someone, Chris, can you tell me this? We've been pineappled.
Probably.
By a vast number of people, we've been pineappled. When you do this, you lose the ability to read the room. Okay? You lose the ability to, I don't know, get the accurate temperature of things. I thought you guys were casting from Brant. It's still AOL dial-up. Jonah. I love it. It makes it hard if you just mute every single concept that you don't like or you don't agree with. It makes it difficult for you to then have a grounded in reality conversation about a topic. And it makes it also hard for you to, I don't know that it makes it hard. It makes it far likely that you're going to end up like looking like that stupid Pikachu meme. Huh? When something happens and you don't understand the context of it because you've muted everybody who would talk about that in a way you don't like. This happens probably more in sports than it does anything else. So with that, I look at the Sean McDermott conversation that came out of this game. And it's surprising to me some of the reception of it. Because what you have is, you know, there's a dynamic of when a guy like me sits back here with a drink like this and yells about Sean McDermott and refers to him as the next John Fox. Everyone goes, oh, sucks, and he's just taking cheap shots at a guy that I like. Pineappled. I don't have to hear Drew Gear's opinions on Sean McDermott anymore. And then, Chris, a journalist a journalist goes out and writes an article, but the NFL as a whole talks to GMs, talks to players, studies the game of football. He writes an article and he gets painted as, not just painted as, villainized by our fan base. And it's a problem. And everybody's mad. Everybody's angry at the guy who's saying the things that they don't like. His work gets kind of painted as a hatchet job. Oh, this was hack and it was punching, it was low blows and cherry-picked sources. I don't want to believe you, so I'm not going to buy into anything you've pineapple. I'm going to turn this off and I'm not going to hear anything more from the drunk guy in the basement or from the somewhat national journalist. Okay, that's a choice. Chris, what happens when the conversation that these two people have been having all of a sudden reaches a national stage? And when I say hit the national stage, I don't just mean that I don't just mean, hey, somebody on a morning talk show made a comment about it. I mean, every talking head everywhere suddenly has a about the thing that a certain group of people who you've chosen to ignore has been railing on for a while now. Chris, if you want to go ahead and hit us with the, who do we want to start with? I mean, maybe it's the, I'm watching the video. It is incredibly choppy. It's bad. What are we looking at as far as, I don't know, first take? Can you give me the first take audio there?
But I'm still going to go with the answer to this question, saying the Bills. Why? Because I tried to give Sean McDermott a pass. And my God, how idiotic can you be as a coach to know that you need to run the football and you going to throw the football not one, not two, but 3 times. And oh, by the way, you ain't got nobody in the backfield. Everybody in their mother knew that you were going to throw the football. I mean, you didn't even fake it. You even do play action. Nothing. I mean, you just stop back. You just drop back and not 1, not 2, but 3 times, and you ultimately give Houston the ball back and put them in a position to win the damn game. Yeah. Now, I have never been one of those guys that looked at Sean McDermott and said, he need to go, like other people have been so ultra critical of him. But I will say this, he did himself no favors yesterday. The only thing he did right yesterday was call his own damn self out after the game, saying what the hell he was thinking.
There you go. Stephen A. Smith.
So Stephen A. Smith comes out with this blistering hot take about Sean McDermott. Okay, that's one man's opinion, and it's very easy to go, hey, he's a bloviator, and he screams about all kinds of things, and he might not be right. Pineapple, I don't want to hear that. I don't like it. It makes my internet experience and my fandom experience unenjoyable. And so in that way, I don't want to listen to it. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm not here to force you to. But then what you're going to do is if you over to Colin Cowherd, and you're going to get to hear him say things like this.
Andy Reid in crisis feels like a life preserver for the Chiefs. Sean McDermott in crisis is starting to feel a kettleball.
Chris, that's two national. But again, Chris, how many people deride you for talking about, well, every time you bring up Colin Cowherd and people go, oh, he talks out of his ass every week. He don't know what he's talking about. How many times does that happen to you?
All of the time.
All the time. So then what happens is you move on and you find yourself, you say, hey, you know who's always been a Buffalo Bills defender? Adam Shine from CBS Sports. Adam Shine has always been a Josh Allen truther. He regularly picks the Buffalo Bills to be winners, to be Super Bowl winners, to be division winners. And so in that way, I feel like Adam Shine is a guy who Bills fans look at, just like they look at Kyle Brandt. They go, I trust that guy. That guy has good opinions because he's saying things that I enjoy. Chris, hit me with the Shine audio.
And I'm going to go there. When your general manager decides we're going to trade Stephon Diggs and not replace him adequately, and it's going to be all on Josh, you're set up for failure. And the Buffalo Bills, their upside is always to go to the Super Bowl and win it because they have a megastar quarterback. When Josh Allen has a bad game and Sherman goes all McDummy on you, this team is on arrival.
There you go, Adam. Shine XM. Shine on sports.
How many people are you going to mute? How often can you pineapple something or an idea or a word or a concept before maybe you have to turn around and take a look and realize that maybe it's not us? Maybe the problem isn't the guy in the basement drinking beer yelling about a head coach. Maybe the problem isn't a local to / national journalist who writes articles about every football team and happened to do a scathing expose on a team's head coach. Maybe the problem isn't Chris first take. Who all is on that show? It's Shay.
It's a rotating panel with Stephen A.
Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, a group of people who he enjoys speaking with. How many people can you mute before you have to face the fact that sometimes some of these criticisms are earned and that they are viable? And that not only are they viable, but that now you've created a scenario for the Buffalo Bills that I'm going to lay out in the closing of tonight's show. And I think that, in fact, fuck it, I'll do it now before our connection completely falls apart and this whole thing crashes. I believe that the Bills are at a crossroads right now, and this game is a microcosm of it, as was the Ravens game. But this is so much more than that, because this falls, by his own admission, squarely on the shoulders of a head who wasn't aware enough of what his offense up as a game plan, probably had an inaccurate assessment of his own team's talent and their ability to execute in the situations they were going to face if you did enough tape study. So you have a problem in front of you because everyone keeps saying, Sean McDermott's fine. Sean McDermott's fine. He will eventually get over the hump. This will eventually be okay. Just wait until we reload. Just wait until we spend more money and we fix that problem and this problem and the other one. There's a thing called opportunity cost. Let's talk about that dynamic. You guys want to talk about the philosophy of pineapple culture. I want to talk about cost. You to be an NFL football team with a quarterback like Josh Allen, you have an opportunity in front of you. You've already given Sean McDermott one shot at a window of just, hey, this is your chance to have a highly paid team full of draft picks that, not for nothing, Sean McDermott had a lot of say in. And you're going to be able to coach that team with a quarterback who's a juggernaut, who is one of the top 2 players at his position, which happens to be the most important position of the game. You have LeBron. And the way I think of this is LeBron James on the Cavaliers early in his career. LeBron James had to leave the Cavaliers in order to find success. Bid. Josh Allen never gets that thought. I don't think it'll ever come to that. And anybody who suggests they might want to leave, I think that's stupid. But what I do believe that if you're talking about Sean McDermott as your head coach, and what you're trying to do is create a narrative that he's above reproach and that all he needs is one more shot, you all realize that this might be your last shot with Josh Allen. You're taking your medicine this year specific so that you can then reopen the window while you have Josh Allen in his prime. You have to be able to question and willing to question, both as a fan and as a team. If you're Brandon Beane, I know that's your friend. He's the one who got you the job. I know Terry Pagula. There's only certain things you're contractually allowed to do when it comes to these two guys. And when it comes to the franchise as a whole, you have to be able to and willing to have the conversation. Do I want to see what more of this looks like when I come out this rebuild that I'm going through? This cap reset that I've chosen to undergo. Do I want that? Do I want to trust ends a lot of our losses and a lot of our seasons saying, this is on me, we're going to learn from it? Do you know that it's been that way since 2019? Every time the season ends, it's always on Sean McDermott. Now, this isn't me being hyperbolic. This isn't me predicting. This is fact. It's on record. Almost every single season-ending press conference, it's Sean McDermott taking culpability at a microphone over some misstep or over some just ill-conceived plan, over something that he missed, something that he didn't pick up on, something that was underdeveloped. But he promises he'll get it right next time. I made a joke earlier tonight when I was doing a preview show with a Jets fan.
Scott Mason, everyone knows who that
play
is.
like a Jet. And I made the joke that I swore to everybody that I was going to understand Math 2. Do you know that I failed Math 2 in high school? Right? Geometric proofs, like advanced algebra, geometric proofs, and true-false tables. I failed miserably. It was embarrassing. I think I had like a 47 the first time around I took it. As a final grade, a 47. And I told everybody, guys, I'm going to go do more homework. I'm going to study. I'm going to work my ass off until I to a science. First of all, record and say that whoever came up with a geometric proof is an ass. Because how do you know it's a triangle? It's got 3 sides. That's how. Realistically, all of the work and all of my energy and all of my effort, where it got me to a 70, which was just enough for me to not have to take summer school the following year after I had repeated it for half a year. No matter how much work I did, I was never going to be good at math. And this is where it becomes a problem. I'm never going to be good at Math 2 and geometric proofs, no matter how hard I try. It's just not a piece of my skill set and my mental makeup. Sean McDermott might have the same problem when it comes to having a cohesive approach to preparing an in-game for an NFL football game. And that's not, he's better than half of what exists out there. And that's the problem with all this that exists. People go, well, I don't want to hear this person. I don't want to hear that person because what they're saying doesn't align with what I want to believe. Fine, but then understand one day Sean McDermott might get fired and you don't know why. It might be that somebody else has the same idea that, look, he's not bad. He isn't what we need. And that we have an opportunity of us that we can't continue to go down this road with. It's going to cost us too much potentially to continue deferring to Sean McDermott's better judgment. Everyone points to Andy Reid, how he had to get fired from the Eagles after how many years? And then he had to go to the Chiefs, and it took him 7 years before he made a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. I know NFL coaches that get 15 years to prove themselves. Chris, do you?
No.
No, that's not how it works. And that's not how it works when you have a quarterback already in his prime. You will waste this person. You will waste this NFL career. One that already feels like if he could just achieve something, he would be destined for a gold jacket. Across the board. You can't risk that. So, but that's just me thinking. That's just talking. You can't risk that if you're coming from the place of the drug in the basement and the regional journalist, and now increasingly the national media. Everyone is picking up steam on this idea that this guy's consistent deficiencies are not going to be enough. And at the same time, there is a giant portion of our fan base that doesn't want to hear it. And so they will mute and they will avoid and they will duck and they'll dip. It'll be like the movie Dodgeball. They will dip, duck, dive, and dodge. And what else?
Dip, duck, dodge, dive, and dip or something. I know one of them repeated.
Guys, call in if you know. Got Duster in the comments. Ellen missed too many as far as coach. If the passes work, then they're heroes. Here's the problem, though. It didn't work. You could say that about everybody. You could say that about Marvin Lewis. If his game plans year over year worked, the Bengals would have gone to the AFC title game. They would have won a Super Bowl, and no one would be talking about Marvin Lewis as the poster child for a coach who you hold on to for too long. It is a game of inches, and only one person can win, and I understand that the margin of error in this sport is so small. And so somebody has to lose. I understand. It's just hard when every time you get into that close situation, you feel like you end up on the short end of it, and it's never for intelligent reasons. It's never Josh Allen threw to a wide open guy and some defender just made a safety came flying down into the box to break up the pass. Or that, hey, on first down, like literally in the shadow of their own goalposts, they came out with a really cohesive approach. They ran the ball. They took the timeouts. They made Houston burn their timeouts, and then the punt just didn't get them far enough outside of the range they needed. And so Texans just kicked off the jump with a few seconds left, and it didn't matter. Duster, you're right. It might not be Sean, but you can't find yourself at the every single time where Josh Allen's walking off the field with a haunted look on his face, and our coach is at the podium to do better next time. You can only do that. And there again, you have opportunity cost. You have a franchise that has to make a decision. When we begin to add pieces and we have cap space and we want to make some bold moves, do we want it to be at the behest of a guy who has spent the better part of a decade showing us that in those clutch moments where you get it and you need, to Cowherd's point, you need somebody to be your life vest in choppy water. Your coach doesn't give you an advantage. Then what is the benefit of him? Just saying. It's just food for thought for people who don't want to hear the other side of the conversation. And the problem with that and the whole pineapple thing of muting and moving, and I'm gonna move on from this person, and I'm gonna mute this guy, and I'm gonna because they're saying things I don't like. It's gonna get worse if this continues. It's already reached the national media. Do you think it's gonna get better from here? Sean McDermott has a lot to work on and a lot to improve. And this season is almost quickly becoming a referendum on him, Chris. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Now, the reason that we come together to do this, I want to knock this out. We have, Chris, and please tell me you get the draw. The people who have it worse than the Buffalo Bills right now and who have it worse than Sean McDermott week 5.
You both, your lives are so fucking pathetic. I ran a charity $15K to raise awareness for it, you fucking losers.
It's time to have fun and wash our palate of whatever the hell that was on Sunday. People who have it worse than Buffalo Bills fans right now, Chris, this is near and dear to your heart, Buffalo Sabres fans. Oh my God. Guys, all I heard all summer long was that the Buffalo Sabres were going to be better. Hey, we got Lindy Ruff back. We're going back to the beginning. We've got a young upstart goalie who looks like he's going to be great. We paid him. We extended this guy. We've got Devin Levi. We've got young players in the system who look. And our team is finally poised to fix all their mistakes and just become a formidable NFL team. Or NHL team. Chris, what happened this weekend?
There's a lot of defensive mistakes.
Hey, wait.
I watched the game Friday. I didn't get to watch Saturday because I was at work. But
Chris,
I mean, they're already running this back, like the Lindy Ruff coming back. They've already done this before with Pat LaFontaine, with Ted Nolan, bringing in old coaches, old people to the front office. I mean, it's only 2 games, and I think some teams that started 0-2 last year, Florida and Edmonton, I heard they did pretty well after starting 0-2.
Yep.
So, I mean,
is this the cope? Is this you with your? Is this the Sabres fan cope? Guys, we're 0-2, but
you can bail on the season as a fan at Thanksgiving. That's always the line. American Thanksgiving, that's when you can call it for the season.
Brendan O'Brien and H. Duster both making quality point comments. Duster pointing out that if Josh Allen makes our passes, we win the game. And I'm not going to, I don't.
Hey, can we say this because it's never been mentioned during the show?
Yeah.
Houston also did not want to win that game.
Oh, no. Houston was trying to give it away.
They wanted us to have it, and we said no.
And we said no.
Fuck
We gave it
that.
back to them. So here's the thing. When you're talking about that dynamic, Duster, yes, a few more questions, but then you have to look at why they didn't get completed. It wasn't because Josh wasn't trying. Josh is doing the best he can, especially after getting his brain scrambled. Allegedly, he's fine. Do better around that guy. To Brendan O'Brien's point, McDermott has to be feeling some pressure, looking at hey, the first firing happened and it's only week 6. All right, how many more dimes might fall of guys who maybe guys have just had enough of? I don't know. I don't think McDermott's seat is hot, but I think it's that if you're a smart owner and you're a smart GM, even his friend at GM has to be asking himself, is this the guy? Is this the guy I want to go down this road with one more time for another maybe 5 years where I'm going to spend a ton of draft capital and he's going to have a say in it? Or I'm going to go out and get free agents and he's going to have a lot of say in how we construct this. But he's already done it poorly once. And in in-game moments where we need the coaching staff to be at their best, he's failed. Do I trust that he can fix it this time around? Or am I going to have another, Chris, are we going to run into another version of 13 seconds at some point that literally just boils down to coaching?
I would say that this is right up there with 13 seconds.
And
there were bigger stakes for 13 seconds, but it's 13 seconds happened and you're like, you know what? I couldn't manage the clock. My bad. I'll get that corrected. And then this Sunday happened. You're like,
oh, so you didn't learn.
I thought you learned.
I thought you told me that you were going to learn. Oh, you're not doing it? Then that would be like me saying I'm going to get better at math and signing up for trigonometry, which I did. And then I literally had to pull the escape chute. I pulled the ejector seat second week in because I realized I'm a liar. I'm never going to be good at trigonometry and I need a study hall. I got to get the hell out of here or I'm going to tank my senior grade before I go away to college. It's just not a thing that I'm good at. And maybe it's just not a thing he's good at. And we all need to at least, I'm not saying accept it as fact. What I'm saying is don't mute me because I feel that way. Absorb that information because it's only going to get, that narrative is only going to get louder the more of this you see. And it's branching out to more people than you can mute. And eventually you just have an echo chamber with you and people going, Sean McDermott rules. He doesn't do anything wrong. It's not his fault.
Going back to people who have it worse, the Browns.
Oh, my God.
The Browns fans, I've seen, I guess Stefanski calls the plays, and now they want Ken Dorsey to call the plays. I guess that's what was trending on Twitter on Sunday, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that's such a good idea.
Do you know how bad, as the kids say, do you know how down bad you have to be to root for Ken Dorsey to come in as your play caller? Holy shit. Deshaun Watson has been one of the worst NFL investments of all time. I'm not even saying that it's, Chris, when I say that it's a bad investment, I don't just mean a bad investment now here in the year of our Lord 2024. I mean bad investment all time for any NFL football team. Can somebody in the comments, somebody watching live, think of a more disastrous signing for a franchise in the NFL? You took an important position and you entrusted it to a guy who a lot of fine metrics kind of said, this guy's whole statistical jacket might be made up of garbage time stats. This guy's entire career might have just been spent always playing from behind and never having to really worry about wins and losses because they never were involved. Chris never had any upshot.
It's been a minute on this, but I'm going to say Rob Johnson. I don't know if you remember that signing. That was a bad signing.
Yeah, but at least he didn't molest anybody. So I don't get sued. Guys, I think Stephen A. Smith summed it up the best when it comes to the state of the Cleveland Browns quarterbacking.
Deshaun Watson is awful. It's so awful that if somebody wanted to arrest him for being awful, I would accept it.
There you go.
On national TV, a pundit came out and said if someone wants to arrest Deshaun Watson for being garbage, we'll allow this. It's hilarious to me. But nothing has made me happier than lapping up. Like if I could get some of the Jets fans good bread and sop up all of the Browns fans' misery out of the start of this season, it would make for one of the most delicious meals anybody's ever seen. Now, with that said, their offensive ineptitude is bordering franchise records. And this is the Browns we're talking about. Now, think about the toll that's taking on their fan base. What would you rather be than a Browns fan? What's the thing that you would rather have? Like, what would you rather root for than the Browns? Think about something that sucks.
God, I have no idea. I don't know. Being a Democrat, that would suck.
Of course. And then you're going to put an ad break in there and they're going to play a Kamala Harris ad just to troll you.
Could.
Inside Baseball, guys, he's been making those types of jokes for weeks because every time we go to an ad break after he says something snarky because he has to try to inject a fun quip in there, they immediately play a Kamala Harris Tim Walton. It makes me laugh.
I haven't heard one the last couple weeks I've done it.
It makes me laugh. I like Vita Vega. Don't worry, McDermott will hire 10 more consultants and will eventually have constructively fired himself. Hey, listen, I know people who've done it. They go, listen, I'm the guy, and as long as our team wants to allow him to have the biggest coaching staff on earth, I bet you could get away with Sean McDermott boxing himself into a room where he's no longer involved. And I don't know that I'd be mad at that, but I digress. Also, people who have it worse than Bills fans, Kanye West. You want to know why? Him and his wife, Bianca Censori, are getting divorced, and Pete Davidson has an opportunity to do the funniest thing anyone's ever seen. And hook up with another one of his exes. I'm looking at all the comments that are pouring in now. Exactly. Brendan O'Brien. Nailed it. Here we go. Jets. With a cherry on top, you know who emphatically has it worse than us? The Jets fans. The Jets have made franchise history today. This morning, executing their first ever in-season firing. Now, first of all, Chris, it's almost kind of cool that the franchise have made it this long without ever having to fire a coach in the middle of a season, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to the 70s. They haven't had to throw a coach to the wolves the way they did Robert Saleh today. What a time to be alive if you're Gang Green. And here's the funny thing. I never liked Robert Saleh. I've gone on record as saying that he's the football version of a character like Dom Toretto from Fast and the Furious. Just a one-speed, depthless persona that's synthesized of nothing but like all the things a group of dorks thinks that a cool guy or a tough guy might be, might say, and might do. Some of his quotes over the years have been fucking hilarious. Look at this. Get used to the mantra, all gas, no break. That was from his press conference when he got hired.
Yeah.
That sounds awfully close to a few like really corny Vin Diesel lines from over the years, where he's like, figured if I could win 500 fights, then I could consider myself a tough guy. I don't know. I consider myself a tough guy. You know what I've done? Is just win the fights that have been presented to me. I didn't have to go out and seek out 500 of them, you idiot. How about this? Last November, they go into a game against the Raiders in Sunday Night Football. And Tony Dungy goes, you know, I spoke to Robert Saleh ahead of the game, and he said, man, this game is a race to 20 points. No shit! Every game is a race to 20 points. The NFL league-wide average for points per game hasn't been lower than 20 since 1993. Where the fuck have you been, moron? You sound like a caveman. Every single one of these games is a race to 20 points. And the fact that he didn't start having that mindset until what? November 2023? Like, oh, hey, guys, this is the one where we got to beat him to 20. Horse's ass. What a mess. But it's easy to throw stones, right? His record's atrocious. So they fire this guy who clearly has the defensive play calling and acumen of Chris, right? Chris could have coached that team with those chains on. Chris, show the people. Yeah. Picture those chains. Chris could have coached that team for the New York Jets as well as Robert Saleh did, as long as he has. And this is what I love. He's got defensive coaching and play calling acumen down to a science. Doesn't know offensive football, though, even if it came from flat earth conspiracy theories. Here's the best part. Nate Hackett somehow kept the job. Isn't there an irony in that? Like, Jets fans were like, finally, we divested ourselves of a dog shit coach. Well, you left that guy? Who gets to fire him?
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not going to lie to you. If you've read the conspiracy theories, Aaron Rodgers is that's the reason that Saleh was fired. Like, that's the reason. And that's the reason that a lot of this has gone to shit for them, is because Aaron Rodgers and Nate Hackett, you guys go follow the tweets. We're actually going to talk about it in our preview for our Jets game with Scott Mason and Play Like a Jet. We're talking about the concept of, I think that Rodgers got Saleh fired to save his friend's job, and his friend is terrible at it. Don't you feel bad for a fan base that has to deal with a front office that works like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So final thoughts, and I think this is a nice segue. I'm reading through all the comments that came in the aftermath of our conversation about Sean McDermott. And one of the things that I think has to be noted, you never want to be the franchise that is, hang on, Brendan O'Brien, I run the stadium stairs before every game. You fucking overachiever. That might be my favorite comment of the night. I don't know. That's up there. That rules. So here's where I stand. I'd like my football team to be pragmatic. I'd like my football team to make smart choices. And when you look at Sean McDermott and this coaching staff, there's clearly a disconnect between the coaching vision and what they have and what they have the ability to put on the field, from an offensive coordinating standpoint and also from a head coaching standpoint. Now the problem becomes, eventually, the rubber's got to meet the road. You as a head coach can't just keep firing offensive coordinators when things don't work. You can't keep replacing defensive coordinators when things don't go the way you want them to. You can't replace special teams coordinators in the aftermath of a game where you made a choice. You personally made a choice to tell the players on the field to do something that subverted your own coach, alienated him, and he quit his post because he wasn't willing to be your scapegoat. Something has to give. And at the same time, do you want to be the New York Jets, Chris?
No, I don't.
Do you want to be a team that fires its coach in the middle of a season amidst all kinds of disruption, but a lot of it that you, like the disarray, you signed up for it when you ate $63 million in dead money?
Mm-hmm.
Sean McDermott no longer has player talent to bail him out. He's got one guy, 17. 17's the only guy talented enough to bail him. And luckily for him, Sean McDermott, luckily for him, Josh Allen isn't turned on you. Josh Allen clearly has your back. Do you want to know why, Chris? Because as much as I like to sit here and make fun of the idea of Aaron Rodgers running that organization, Do you think that Josh Allen doesn't also carry the same leverage here within ours?
He should. And why he didn't go like this, listen for a play call, and go, there's 20 seconds left. I got to throw the ball? Fuck that. I'm running the ball. How about that?
If Josh Allen ever stops Bruce Nolan, did I miss the opportunity to defend myself from pineapple slander? There's no slander, sir. I love that Bruce Nolan decided to check into the show just to see if he could defend himself or just to see what we were talking about. Bruce, I love you. I would never slander you. What the Bills have to do is find out who they have. They got to find out who Sean McDermott is. They really have to vet what the future looks like. And Sean McDermott should be thanking God that Josh Allen doesn't have the attitude that Aaron Rodgers currently does. Because I guarantee you, if Josh Allen understood or at least had the mindset of I'm going to weaponize the influence that I very obviously, as the best quarterback since Jim Kelly, and hell, maybe I'm better than him. If he didn't, if he wakes up one day and realizes he can weaponize that, how do you think things are going to go with McDermott? Do you think that Brandon Beane and Terry Pagula would choose Sean McDermott over Josh Allen?
No.
Okay. So then in this way, Sean McDermott has a window of time where this is still fixable. It's not done. It's not written in stone. Yes, you got pilloried this week. The national media had their turn on you. And obviously, as predictably, a lot of local podcasters, the drunk guys in the basement, the local and regional reporters, and everybody else came for their pound of flesh. But you haven't lost 17. And that's the difference between Sean and Sala, is that this guy hasn't lost the guy who's the most important person to the franchise. The moment he does, I don't think it's going to matter who you've pineappled. I don't think it'll matter who you've muted and what words you've decided you don't want to hear or what opinions you don't want to be subjected to. If Sean McDermott can't take the rest of 2024 as an audition for the fact of, hey, I need to convince Josh that I still get this. And hey, I need to convince Brandon Beane that I still get this. And Terry still needs to be convinced that I still have this. It's out there in front of him to get. If he can do it, wonderful. Then we'll go on for the next 5. And if he can't, I don't know how much longer all of this lasts. I don't know what the shelf life on a coach who continues to get to the podium and make the same kind of over and over again that it was me and that I did this and I'll get better. Because you run out of chances to get better. That's the nature of the NFL. I hope